There was a time when every highway in America led to an orange roof. Not a McDonald's, not a Subway, not a gas station with a hot dog roller and a self-serve kiosk. An orange roof. Burnt, vivid, impossible to miss. Sitting at the highway exit like it had been waiting specifically for you. And underneath it, a restaurant that your parents trusted, that their parents trusted, that the United States government trusted enough to plant along its brand new interstate highway system as the official place where America stopped to eat. Howard Johnson's. You already know the name. You might already feel something. The back seat, vinyl, hot against your legs. The blast of cold air when the door swings open. The laminated menu, thick as a paperback. 28 flavors of ice cream listed right there in print, because in a country that had just survived the Depression and a world war, 28 flavors wasn't excess. It was a promise. At its peak, Howard Johnson's was the largest restaurant chain in the United States. Bigger than McDonald's. Bigger than anything. Over 1,000 locations lining the highways of post-war America. Every one of them identical. Every one of them orange. Every one of them saying the same thing to every family that pulled off the road. You're expected here. Come in. Today there is one left. One. In Lake George, New York. This is the story of how that happened. At its absolute peak, somewhere around 1965, Howard Johnson's operated more than 1,000 restaurants across the United States. More locations than McDonald's. More than any other restaurant chain in the country. Each one looked nearly identical by design. The orange roof with the cupola on top. The Simple Simon and the Pyman weather vane. Inside, a lunch counter along one wall, a dining room of booths along the other, and a hostess who usually knew the regulars by name. The menu ran to 28 flavors of ice cream, not because the company needed 28, but because 28 felt like abundance. In a country that still remembered the Depression, a list that long was a quiet promise: you will not be turned away here, you will not go without. The unspoken social contract was this: you sat down, you got water, you got a menu, and nobody rushed you. Families with children were expected and accommodated. Truckers ate at the counter. Couples on road trips ordered pie. The clam strips were a signature, slightly sweet, very crunchy, and the fish on Fridays made Hojo's the default Catholic family stop on any long drive. Fried chicken, Frank's, hot fudge sundaes that arrived in silver dishes. The staff were largely lifers, waitresses who had worked the same section for a decade, managers who moved up from bussing tables. There was institutional memory baked into the service, and customers felt it. Howard Deering Johnson, the founder, Hojo himself, didn't invent the restaurant. He invented the system. In the 1930s, Johnson developed something almost no one else had yet formalized: the franchise model. Independent operators paid for the right to use the name, the recipes, the look, and the supply chain. Johnson's company manufactured and distributed the food centrally, ensuring consistency. The operator kept the profit from running the location. Johnson's company collected fees and kept control of the brand. This model is so familiar now, it's hard to see how radical it was. Ray Kroc studied it. McDonald's is in large part a refinement of what Johnson built first. The Interstate Highway Act of 1956 turned that model into a gold mine. Suddenly, 40,000 miles of new road were being laid across America, and millions of families were driving them in cars they'd just bought with post-war prosperity. They needed to stop. They needed bathrooms they could trust and food they recognized. State governments actually contracted with Howard Johnson's to operate highway rest stops along the New Jersey and Pennsylvania turnpikes. The orange roof wasn't just a brand. It was, for a period, official American infrastructure. Stable ingredient costs, volume purchasing, and a captive highway audience made the margins reliable for decades. Howard Deering Johnson died in 1972. Control passed to his son, Howard Johnson Jr., and the company entered a slow, quiet collapse that took about 15 years to fully register. The problem wasn't a single disaster. It was a refusal to see two forces working together. The first was fast food. McDonald's opened its first franchised location in 1955, the same year the highway bill passed. By the early 1970s, McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's had industrialized speed and price in a way Hojo's never matched. A family of 4 could eat at McDonald's for half the price and be back on the highway in 12 minutes. Howard Johnson's required a sit-down commitment, a waitress, a menu, a check. That had been a feature. It became a liability. The second force was the menu itself. Johnson Jr. was famously resistant to change. While competitors added new items, responded to shifting tastes, and targeted the emerging fast casual market, Hojo's kept serving the same food it had served in 1955. By 1979, the company had been sold to Imperial Group, a British conglomerate that didn't fully understand the American roadside customer. Then sold again in 1985 to Marriott, which converted most locations to other brands almost immediately. In 1965, there were over 1,000 Howard Johnson's restaurants. By 1995, fewer than 100. By 2021, the orange roof didn't fall. It just faded, one location at a time, until most people didn't notice it was gone. What disappears with a chain like Howard Johnson's isn't just the menu. It's the people who built their working lives inside it. The counter staff who knew the Tuesday regulars, the managers who'd spent 20 years learning one kitchen. The customers who lost the most weren't the young families with flexibility and options. They were older travelers, rural families, for whom the highway stop was one of the few reliable public spaces they encountered. Hojo's was safe because it was known. The bathroom would be clean. The food would be what you expected. For a black family driving through the South in the 1960s, when Hojo's, unlike many independents, had begun to desegregate its locations, the orange roof carried a specific and serious meaning. We will serve you here. That assurance, mundane to some, was not mundane to everyone. When it was gone, there was nothing that replaced what it had been. There was faster food. There was cheaper food. There was no orange roof and no promise attached to it. There is one Howard Johnson's left. It sits in Lake George, New York, and if you walk inside today, the booths are still turquoise. The menu still has the clam strips. The ice cream is still there. It feels, walking in, less like a restaurant than like a pressure change, like descending to a different altitude. The air is familiar in a way you can't entirely explain, because you haven't been somewhere like this in decades, and yet your body seems to remember the geometry of it, the counter, the stools, the particular height of the booth back. What's gone isn't the fried clams, it's the confidence, the mid-century American certainty that someone had planned for your arrival. Not your specific arrival, but your kind of arrival. The family in the station wagon with hungry kids and an hour to spare. Someone had put a roof on a building the color of a traffic cone so you could find it from half a mile away. Someone had made 28 flavors so you wouldn't have to settle. The orange roof meant, we expected you. You are not an inconvenience here. That feeling has a name, but we mostly only recognize it now by its absence. If Howard Johnson's was part of your road trips, we want to hear about it. Drop a comment and tell us, what did you order and who were you with? Not just the place, the moment. Those are the stories worth keeping. If this one meant something to you, hit like and subscribe. Every day we go back to a place that shaped American life and ask how it disappeared. We'll see you at the next stop.